Matt Bernie, you're taking a look at the all-stakes pick four sequence at Tampa Bay Downs on Tampa Bay Derby Saturday, coming up on March the 9th. You can play the entire sequence over on DRF Bets, and I would strongly encourage you to play the sequence using DRF Ticketmaker. The beautiful thing about Ticketmaker, you go in, emphasize your opinions accordingly, and you can click that Bet Now button in the upper right-hand corner. All goes right in on DRF Bets. No need to make out individual tickets. It's all taken care of for you. DRF Ticketmaker with DRF Bets. This sequence races 8 through 11. It's fascinating. You've got a number of graded stakes races highlighted by the Tampa Bay Derby. We'll kick things off with the 8th race. Mile and a 16th on the main track, the $100,000 Challenger. And it's, you know, I kind of go back and forth. This is a short field, and usually these kind of races, I go ahead and say you either need to get really, really narrow or you go deep and you take as many as you can. I'm going to almost, I don't want to say contradict myself a little bit. To me, the race goes through Flame Away and or Jay's Way. I think from a trip standpoint, they're both going to work out nice. One sitting just off of Killy Big's Captain, a horse that I think is good, but I just don't know about this distance. The problem is I don't know that I trust Flame Away or Jay's Way particularly. So I'm going to use both of them sort of as A's. And again, I'm not going to give an entire ticket out here. I would encourage you to do so. The gist of this video is for me to give you some opinions. Perhaps you overlook some things. Maybe you agree with my opinions. Maybe you disagree. But again, the beauty of Ticketmaker, make a horse a or a B or a B or a C, something along those lines. Those would be the two that I'd have most of my weight with. As a little bit of a backup, though, I'd be using the 2 Re-Ride. I still maintain I think there is ability here. I think this horse can run. I still think he's probably more of a miler on grass, but he goes out for Nacho Correas now. We'll find out what we get here. If the pace does heat up, he should be coming with a little bit of a run late. So those would be the 3 horses I'd be taking a look at in the kickoff leg of this all-stakes pick 4 sequence. We go on to the 9th race. It's a graded stakes race, the Grade 2 Hillsborough on turf. Fillies and mares a mile and an eighth. To me, it goes through Chad Brown, the 7 and the 8. The 7 horses, Rimska, the 8 is on the moon again. Rimska, I've never loved her. I think she's good. I don't think she is elite. And having said that, I still think she's the horse to beat in this spot. That return effort, I thought it was okay given the fact that there was little pace signed on, and I think she does better coming from well off of it. I would expect her to move forward here, second start, off of a little bit of a layoff. And as far as on the moon again is concerned, she's a horse that, from a distance standpoint, I think this is probably better than those longer races, although she's predominantly been campaigned at longer distances throughout her career. Coming off a little bit of a layoff, maybe she won't be entirely ready to go, and again, maybe they are looking at longer races. I think this is the kind of race and distance that hits her right between the eyes. I would use both of them in equal weight. If you're looking for a bit of an intriguing longer price in here to use underneath or as a backup, how about the 10 Goodyear for Roses? Now, this is a filly. She's a mare, I should say. She's 7 years old now. She did some really good things in Southern California when she was out there for Richard Baltas. She started her career north of the border at Woodbine for Roger Atfield. Now she's here with Brian House. This is a horse in the Endeavor. There's a number of horses exiting the Endeavor running in this spot, including Hawksmoor, Viva Vegas. They were the top 2 finishers that day. The reason I'm intrigued with Goodyear for Roses, that was her first start in over a year. She had been going for a long, long time. Her last start came in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf in 2017. If she's going to take a step forward, this is going to be the race where she does it. This mile and an eighth, I know she's only 1 for 7 at it. I think this is well within her scope. She's just kind of one of those horses at 8 to 1, even with that outside draw. I think I'd be using her as, at the very least, as a C, if not a B. But really, again, this race, like most graded stakes races on grass do, they go through Chad Brown. Move on to the 10th race, the Grade 3 Florida Oaks. These are 3-year-old fillies, a mile and a 16th on the grass. This race may not necessarily go through Chad Brown, but Chad Brown, one of his horses anyway, is the one that I really like in here. I like the number 1 Lefebvre. She would be sort of the horse that I would take. I would take a stance in here because I think there's a scenario where you do get some shorter prices in some of these other races, and you need to get some value. You need to infuse some value. I think this filly, maybe she doesn't go off at the 5 to 1 morning line. I love the way that she finished in the Swedish Champ. First start off of a long layoff, first start going out for Chad, and I think additional distance is really going to be to her benefit. But if you get 7 to 2 and you hammer her as perhaps a lone A, or you just really emphasize that opinion, I think that could potentially spice some things up going throughout this sequence. So she would be the one I'd be standing on. But if I'm going to use other horses, the 5 and the 10, they're very logical. The 5 is Concrete Rose. The 10 is Stellar Agent. I think they're both very talented. You can make the argument that they're the two most talented horses in the race. From a value standpoint, I think I would prefer Stellar Agent simply because I do believe Concrete Rose may end up going off as the favorite in here and taking a little bit more money than her 7-2 morning line would suggest. I think they're both very, very likely win contenders in here. So again, if you're going to use other horses, and I can understand anyone using them all as A's, equally weighted, but I kind of want to take a little bit of a stand here with Lefebvre. And then other horses to consider. How about those two horses coming in from the fairgrounds? I personally won't be using them as far as my tickets are concerned. The 3 Winter Sunset, the 4 Elsa, but I can understand the intrigue there, particularly with Winter Sunset, given her pedigree and the way that she finished in that most recent run down at the fairgrounds. So big stand for me in this race, the number 1 Lefebvre. We move on to the main event. The payoff leg of this all-stakes pick 4 sequence, the main event of the day. It's the DRF Bets race of the day. I did a deep dive into this race using Formulator and replays on my podcast in the preview. Illman and I dove into this race. It's the Tampa Bay Derby. I'm looking at this saying, if Dreammaker is what I think he is, I think he's the best horse in this race, and I think I shouldn't say that. I think he's the most likely winner of this race. Win-win-win has an argument to sort of throw up there to say that he may be the most talented naturally in the race. But I do think Dreammaker, I loved everything about that fairgrounds effort. I think he takes a step forward here, second off the bench. He has a little bit of a nice running style, I think, based on the way the pace looks like it could set up in this spot. I'm going to go with Dreammaker here and stand on him. He would be a lone A for me. If you're looking for some backups, you certainly have to consider win-win-win. I still wonder if he may end up being a one-turn horse when it's all said and done. That doesn't mean, look, if you're going to get 2 turns, mile and a 16th is when you're going to do it. And if you are just so far superior to all the other horses in the race, perhaps it doesn't matter. I think he's a very logical one if he can successfully navigate the 2 turns. And the other 2 horses that I would be using certainly is C's. The 6 Outshine and the 10 Tacitus. I'm more intrigued with Tacitus than Outshine. Long term, I do think Outshine is interesting in this spot, though. He's kind of a grinder. I think the additional distance will be to his benefit. Pletcher knows a thing or two about winning at Tampa Bay Downs. Joel Rosario has the mount here. And as far as Tacitus is concerned, Bill Mott, this is a bit of an uncharacteristic move. He usually places horses where he thinks they belong. This horse broke his maiden back in early November, and we haven't seen him since. So his first start off of the long layoff, first start against winners, first start as a 3-year-old, all of that's going to come here in a graded stakes race, a Kentucky Derby points prep. That's a pretty positive move. I don't know that I love him Saturday, but I'd certainly want to be using him defensively in this sequence. Going forward, though, he may be one you want to keep an eye on. So for me, the big stand in this race is the number 4 Dreammaker. If he wins, I'll be sitting, I would hope, in a decent position as far as a return, given that I want to really emphasize that pick in the race prior with Lefebvre. So it's a really fun sequence. You can go a few different ways. Races 8 through 11, all stakes pick 4 down at Tampa Bay Downs on Tampa Bay Derby Saturday. Again, you can play this sequence with DRF Bets, and if you're going to play with DRF Bets, you might as well play with DRF Ticketmaker, where you can go through, emphasize your opinions accordingly, A's, B's, and C's, and really hammer that opinion and get the most money out of it when it's all said and done. So, scheduled post time for the first race of this Pick 4 sequence. It's race number 8, the $100,000 Challenger down at Tampa on Saturday afternoon, 3:45 Eastern. Good luck.